Good afternoon, everybody. This is Matt Kramer. I'm going to do a little review, maybe not little, a review of the books I've read for Star Trek The Next Generation. And I'm going to start with the first book and go on to book number 5. And this is inspired by Jonathan Cohn, who does a lot of book reviews on his YouTube channel. So I thought I'd do mine. So what we're going to do today is we are going to go to, I'm doing this on the mobile. And so I'm going to use Kindle, my Kindle app, and Safari, and look at the books that I've read for Star Trek The Next Generation, books 1 through 5. So here we go. Let me go to first the Kindle Kindle app. And the first book, of course, is called Ghost Ship by Diane Carey. The USS, I'm reading the very top. It says the USS Enterprise encounters 1 million lost souls trapped in an endless interstellar voyage. My problem with this particular book it was very weird. It involved, I believe, a Russian submarine, possibly, and I thought the story was kind of was weird. Honestly, that's as best as I can describe it, and that's being nice. This is during the first season of TNG, and a lot of the dialogue is reminiscent of the first season, especially the first episode, Encounter at Farpoint. And so this I would give this out of 5, out of a rate of 1 to 5. I would give it a 2, honestly. Probably the real haters of Star Trek will probably give this a 1 or a 0. But I'm going to give this a 2. I'm honestly going to give this book a 2. But to go from there, I want to read this summary from Memory Alpha. This is the summary. In 1995, a Soviet aircraft. Okay, so it's aircraft carrier. Yeah, aircraft carrier. That's not a summary. That's a big ship. A Soviet aircraft carrier is destroyed by a mysterious creature that just as mysteriously disappears thereafter. Over 300 years later, Counselor Diane awakens in her quarters from a nightmare in which she senses the voices of the crew of that Russian ship, whose life essences, that's a hard word for me. It's a hard word for me. Life essences were somehow absorbed by the creature that destroyed them. And the nightmare heralds a danger to the USS Enterprise D itself. For if Picard can't discover a way to communicate with the creature, it could absorb his crew just as it did the Russians. So this creature, it kind of reminds me of that creature who absorbed the Voyager satellite, I guess a satellite in space, from Star Trek: The Motion Picture. Very similar to that. That's the comparison I can give, and I thought it was a very interesting story, but it was interesting, but it was also a little weird, which is why I give the novel a 2 out of 5. You got Argyle there. He's from the first season. McDougall, she's from the first season. And so that's the first book. The second book is called The Peacekeepers. And The Peacekeepers is a new novel by Jean DeWeese. And it says here, the Enterprise discovers a derelict space station and a world where war has been outlawed. And this is the story where I believe Data and Geordi, I think, were trapped. They were transported, and it was like they were transported to a different dimension. I would give this story probably a 3 out of 5. It was better than than Ghost Ship. Let me read the summary here. Exploring a deserted alien spaceship, Lieutenant Commander Data and Lieutenant George LaForge suddenly find themselves transported light years away into the middle of a deadly conflict. While Captain Picard and the crew of the USS Enterprise search feverishly for the missing crewmen, Data and LaForge discover they are in a station almost identical to the one they were exploring, high in orbit around an Earth-type world. Years before, the occupants of that planet accidentally stumbled onto the ship and its advanced technology, and since then have used its weapons to keep the nations on the planet below disarmed and at peace. Now, their own arrival has precipitated a crisis on the station. Somehow, Data and LaForge must find a way to restore trust between the planet below and the station's guardians of above before a final destructive war breaks out. So, like I said, this book is 3 out of 5. It's better than Ghost Ship. It was still a little weird. And so that's and this is interesting. Background information. According to a timeline released by DC Comics, this novel takes place sometime after the events of When the Bow Breaks, and that's when a lot of children are kidnapped by a certain guy, a certain gentleman. He captures some kids because he and his wife are elderly, and this is what I guess their daughter can't have kids. It's an episode of the first season. It takes place after the events of When the Bow Breaks, but before the events of Hide and Q. Hide and Q is where Q takes members of the crew to a deserted place somewhere in space and makes them do certain challenges. And this is when Tasha Yar's still around, and she's put in a penalty box, if you can remember that from the episode Hide and Q. So this one is a little better. This Peacekeepers book is a little better than the first one. Next one is called The Children of Hamlin. The Children of Hamlin by Carmen Carter. And these books were released in 1988. These first 3 books were released in 1988. The summary for Children of Hamlin is the Hamlin Massacre. Every Starfleet officer knows the tale. The tiny Federation outpost of Hamlin was destroyed, its entire adult population ruthlessly slaughtered. Before the first defense shields could be raised. Even worse, the colony's children disappeared without a trace, abducted by the aliens who attacked with a ferocity and speed that outmatched their Starfleet pursuers. Now, 50 years later, the Carey ships have appeared again. But this time the Federation is ready. This time the Carey must pay for what they need. The precious metals can only be bought with the Hamlin children still living with their captors. This time the Carey must face Captain Jean Picard and the crew of the USS Enterprise D. So the Carey was a species. The B flat, interesting name for a ship, was a Carey sphere ship, and D major. So there was Carey music involved in the Children of Hamlin. The USS Pharaoh was a Constitution-class vessel, severely damaged, with only 30 survivors. The vessel had been commanded by Captain Phil Manning. And the Forax was a freighter under Captain Booker. Okay. Very interesting story. This one was okay. Um, it was okay, but I would give it the same number out of 5 as book 2. This will also be a 3 out of 5. A 3 out of 5. Let's go to Survivors. This book, number 4, called Survivors. This is a prequel to the episode called Skin of Evil, where Armus, the black liquid creature, killed Tasha Yar. And this story happens. There's a lot of flashbacks in the story of Tasha Yar before she joined Starfleet. And years later, she meets up with her old mentor, who's convicted of a crime, but I believe he's found not guilty. But this book, Survivors, is by Jean Lorrah, Lorrah. This is a prequel to Skin of Evil, also written in 1989. This is the first book in 1989. Treva, this is from the book jacket. Treva, a human colony on the fringes of known space, isolated from the rest of the galaxy. At last report, they were on the verge of becoming a true interstellar community, a full-fledged member of the Federation. But now the USS Enterprise D has received a distress call, or distress signal. Treva is in the throes of a violent revolution. A revolution led by a merciless warlord who has committed countless atrocities in the name of freedom. Data and Natasha Yards are dispatched to investigate. But once they reach Treva, they discover the truth. And any possible solution may be more complex than the simple rebellion. For Treva's president wants more than Starfleet's good words in her fight against the rebels. She wants the weapons of the Enterprise, or the Federation. And before the battle is over, she means to get them, over Data and Yar's dead bodies if necessary. Original title was A Question of Security. Interesting. This novel was released 9 months after the character Tasha was cut off in the series. That's Skin of Evil. We have The Starbound, which is where Tasha Yard served on before she got onto the Enterprise. And Sarek is mentioned here. Interesting. There's the USS Cochrane. Okay, so I will actually give this book a 4 out of 5 because it is a prequel to Skin of Evil. It's actually a 4 out of 5 book, 4 out of 5. Now we're going to go to number 5, Strike Zone. Strike Zone, come on. There we go. The first novel in Star Trek, I think. The first novel by Peter David, very famous writer, author, written a lot of books, including the Imzadi books. And I think he also wrote Q Squared, where Squire Gothos and Q from TNG are battling and Picard's in the middle. That's one of the many books that were written. Okay, Strike Zone involves the Klingons. And this is what it says in the summary. Deep in the uncharted regions of our galaxy, the Creel, a primitive warlike race, have stumbled upon weapons powerful beyond their wildest imagination. The Creel have used those weapons to attack their most bitter enemies, the Klingons. Captain Jean-Luc Picard and the crew of the USS Enterprise D are called in to mediate the dispute by ferrying diplomatic teams from the two warring races to the source of their conflict, the mysterious planet where the weapons were discovered, in an attempt to find a peaceful solution to the conflict and discover the origins of the super powerful weapons before the galaxy erupts into full-scale war. Yep, I was right. This is the first of Peter David's many Star Trek novels. He also wrote the New Frontier series. Dr. Pulaski is in this book. So this book takes place during the second season of TNG. A passing mention is made in the novel of the Black Fleet, the precursor Klingon afterlife concept to Sto-Vo-Kor. Black Fleet. Huh. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, let's go back. So I will give this book is so far a 5 out of 5 of the first 5 books in TNG. So that is my review of the first 5 books. And I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will be continuing doing these reviews every 5 books. So I'm going to read books number 6 through 10, and then I will review those for you. So I hope you enjoyed this video. I got some more Star Trek books, but that's much later. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you have a great day.